Welcome to the first ever episode of the Written by Wolves podcast. My name is Oli, and I'm going to be your host for the vast majority of these episodes going forwards. I'm so pleased to finally have this underway. Ever since I was probably like 13 years old or so, I grew up in a small town called Dunedin, and I used to deliver the local newspaper, the Otago Daily Times. I'd get up at like 5 a.m. most mornings, and I'd always be listening to a podcast of some sort. It was often the Metal Hammer podcast or something else music related. And kind of ever since then, I've always wanted to do something of my own where I can talk about music or anything else. And I'm so stoked to be able to do that as part of Written by Wolves. So every episode, I'll be bringing on a new guest from the wider music community, talking music, mental health, and anything in between. And every now and then, I'll be bringing on the rest of the guys from Wolves to do the same. And I can't wait for you guys to join me on the ride. Before I go any further, I also want to let you guys know that we have a brand new single which only came out a few days ago. It's called Misery, and you can listen to it anywhere you listen to your music. We also, not long ago, released a music video for our previous single, Give 'Em Hell. If you haven't seen it, I would definitely recommend going to check it out. If you're watching on YouTube, you can click the link up here to go check it out. And if you're not watching on YouTube, maybe just go press pause and check it out anyway, because it is one hell of a video, if I do say so myself. We have stunt men, stunt horses, wushu fighters, some crazy talented dancers, and some absolutely insane hair, makeup, and costumes. The whole thing is crazy. We had an awesome group of people come on and help us. A lot of people who came on their day off from shooting the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power TV show. Now, we also have some brand new merch, which I'm very conveniently wearing. It's this beautiful custom tie-dye t-shirt made in the same factory as Essentials. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it's got this really cool light reactive iridescent print on the front, and it looks completely different when there aren't a whole bunch of fancy lights shining on you. It's probably my favorite t-shirt of ours to date, and you can get yours from writtenbywolves.com. And lastly, speaking of Essentials, we also have the Written by Wolves Essentials Spotify playlist. We basically update the playlist every month with new songs from our favorite bands. And this May, in celebration of New Zealand Music Month, we've stacked it full of songs from our favorite New Zealand artists. We put in a lot of effort with it, and we'd love for you guys to go check it out. And if you like any of the songs, make sure you go follow the artists as well. Now, I am so pleased to have been able to have had Joshua O'Donnell from Banks Arcade join me for the first ever episode of this podcast. Banks Arcade are a Melbourne-based New Zealand band who have been making absolute waves in the heavy music scene recently. The whole band is such a testament to what hard work and determination can achieve. I've been following and admiring Josh from afar for so long, and I'm so glad to have been able to finally sit down and have a chat with him. I had an awesome time. Now, we also actually recorded this back in September of last year. So you might be asking, why is it taking so long? Well, there are a few reasons. Firstly, I only recently finished my medical residency as a doctor here in New Zealand, and it got a little bit hectic towards the end. I also recently got married a few months ago, and anyone who's got married, I'm sure, will be able to attest to the fact that weddings can be a bit of a logistical undertaking. But also as well, I think it's really important going forward on this podcast for me to be as open and honest and vulnerable with you guys as I can. And I was just a little bit slack, to be honest. I've got ADHD, and I never like to use that as an excuse for anything. But I also think it might be useful to mention in terms of maybe helping get a bit of awareness about it for those who don't know much about it, and also just to maybe, for those who do understand, to get a bit more understanding of things. For me in particular, I have no shortage of ideas, but often struggle with the execution of some of those. I have really high standards, and I had a really particular idea of how I wanted it to look and sound. And I think I just had a bit of anxiety around getting it started, to be honest. But I'm so pleased with how it's turned out. I had such an awesome time talking with Josh. We talked everything from anxiety, mental health, MMA and Ju-Jutsu, and how that's helped him. We also talked about the backstory behind their debut album, Future Lovers, and also had a big chat about tall poppy syndrome, which for those who don't know is a thing that is just absolutely rife in New Zealand. It's basically where people have a real tendency to shoot down those who are high achieving and proud of it. I had an awesome time, and I hope you guys enjoy. Now, before we get started, I just want to also give a quick medical disclaimer. We had a bit of a chat about sort of some medical stuff, and I just want to make it clear that if you experience any concerning medical symptoms or feel unwell, make sure you seek medical advice from a medical professional. Let's get into it. Alrighty, so welcome to the Ridden by Wolves podcast. I'm your host, Oli, and today I'm joined by Joshua from Banks Arcade. Banks Arcade, honestly, might well be one of the most exciting bands to come out of New Zealand for quite a while, I think. They've just finished doing their 5-date tour in New Zealand, off the back of recently also touring from Europe, where they played Download Festival and absolutely smashed it. And they've also just recently released their debut album, Future Lovers. So, thanks for coming, Josh.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Do you prefer Josh or Joshua?
Either one, I'm easy. I usually say Joshua, but you know that's the name my mum gave me. So,
well, what we always do on this is just want to check in, see how you're going. How are you?
Yeah, man, I'm good. It's been an amazing tour. It's been good to connect with the people over here, see some friends and family, and yeah, it's been a little bit of a resting time for us, just because, you know, coming back to New Zealand, just soaking in some of the nature and soaking in the environment here makes us all feel centered and well. So from having all this crazy stuff that's real busy and going overseas, being able to come back here and reset has been really good.
Yeah, I can imagine, actually. Like, because whereabouts are you from originally?
I'm from Foxton.
Foxton?
Yeah.
Where's that?
It's an amazing little town. You see, It's got a windmill, the Foxton River Loop, Foxton Beach.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, you could literally drive through it and blink and you'd miss it.
Yeah.
It's just outside of Wellington, about like an hour and a half this way. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah.
And did you like live there all through high school and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
oh, man.
I've got dual citizenship to the States. So my mom is from America. My dad is from New Zealand. So when I was growing up, I actually spent quite a lot of time traveling over, and I was living in the South in America, in Alabama, Tennessee kind of area. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. No way. Sure, I did not know that.
Yeah.
It's also super handy for like touring and stuff as well, like coming in the future as well.
Yeah, exactly. Because the visa process is...
Oh, yeah.
It's nuts there. And I think it's even easier to get like the rest of my band visas, because I can get meetings with the consulate easier.
Oh.
But some bands have been really screwed by it. Like I know North Lane and some of the other bands, a band called Void of Vision, who's on the same label as us, they had to like fly to Singapore and go all around the world to get a consulate meeting so they could get their visa to go tour. Heaps of bands. Architects just cancelled a tour in America because of visa issues. So it's definitely handy.
It's wild, eh? We haven't quite got there yet, but it's definitely on the cards. But like far out, it's definitely, there's hoops that you don't necessarily expect to act.
Yeah, 100%.
And also, sort of the other thing as well is we sort of check in and like sort of ask like, what have you been listening to? What have you been reading? What have you been watching? Anything? What's sort of been going on day to day?
Well, watching. Have you seen this Everything Everywhere All at Once movie?
No.
All the time, Everything Everywhere.
I feel like I've heard of it.
Bro, honestly, this film is like, when you said that, it just jumps into my brain because it is one of the most striking pieces of art that I've consumed.
Oh, real?
Bro, it's my favorite movie of all time. I've already seen it like 4 times.
Wow.
It is insane. It's like a very psychological kind of mind bending, but then it's also hilarious. Like literally in that film, there was a point where I went from laughing hysterically to crying. Like in a progression of scenes, and it wasn't just. I mean, that makes me sound like a psycho.
No,
if you've seen the movie,
yeah,
you will 100% understand that, because I was literally just sitting in the cinema, and I was with my mates. We're like in a line, and then I'm just laughing, and then my face is slowly turning into a sad face, and I'm starting to cry, and I'm just sitting there like shaking, like what the fuck is this doing to me? So yeah. Oh, am I allowed to swear on here?
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
So I just want to make sure. And then listening. Our manager, the management roster that we're on, Future History, is really awesome. And there's a few bands on there that I love: Sleep Token and Loathe.
Yeah.
they're probably like my favorite bands at the moment.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we got to see both of them while we were over in the UK, and they were just absolutely incredible. And I've been listening to this other hip hop dude called Aaron Shah,
Oh yeah.
and it's real kind of, yeah, he's just got a real cool voice. So I've been listening to lots of that, and I haven't had, man, I really should read more. Like I'm trying to start reading more because every time I do it, I love it. But I read The Alchemist this year.
Oh,
I don't know. Have you read that before?
Who's it by?
I've got no idea, bro.
No,
it's a little
fair
orange book. It's a really famous book.
Yeah, I feel like I do vaguely remember it. I'm kind of the same. I suck with reading. Like I kind of recently got introduced to audiobooks, which like that was a fucking game changer for me. Like that's been quite cool. Because I used to just listen to like so many podcasts like quite mindlessly.
Yeah.
You'd like trawl through like a good half hour of content before you get like a good nugget of stuff. And then the cool thing about audiobooks is like, I guess it's like really focused. It's like a podcast, but they've been researching for like years and shit, which has been quite cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally feel you. The last time I fully read a book is a while ago, which is quite embarrassing actually.
I know. When you're a doctor, mate.
I know.
And you haven't read a book.
Oh, I've read textbooks.
And we're trusting our lives to you. Jesus
I've read
Christ.
heaps of textbooks and pamphlets. You know?
Okay,
That's all
good.
it is. And, you know,
Good.
I can read Google. That's all I need.
Well, that's what I do, mate. And then I end up having an anxiety attack because I have there's a little tingle in my arm. I've got cancer. That's what happens. I literally, because I actually have anxiety, so that will actually happen to me over like phases. I'll be like all good and it won't happen, and then something weird will happen in my body, and then I'm like, okay, I'm convinced I have this really abstract disease. I know that only 3% of people get it, but I'm sure that I'm unlucky enough to end up in that, and then I've got to go through the process of like convincing myself otherwise, and obviously end up having to go see a real doctor.
Yeah, bro, the confirmation bias. It's I remember we used to have it. That I think there's like a special word for it as well. I remember going through med school. And it's real common for people to start experiencing symptoms of these things that you're like studying as well.
Stop it, bro.
And yeah.
I did not like that.
It's a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Well, you know, unless you've got chest pain or like can't feel one side of your body or something, you're probably all good. I shouldn't say that. That's not medical advice.
But that's what I get. Because here's the thing. I get bad chest pain, right? And I get tingly hands, and it's like the literal symptoms of a heart attack. But that's the same thing as anxiety.
Well. Yeah.
So like you get that, but then also in my family, there's a huge history of heart attacks. So I've got that passed down. Like all of the men in my family have had heart attacks except for my dad. So he's probably gonna have one soon. And then my granddad had one at 66. His dad had one at 66. So every time I like feel my chest, I'm like, oh, I'm having a heart attack. I've had that happen before. And then I had to realize, oh, that's just anxiety. But then the anxiety amplifies it.
Bro,
and it's like,
it's a vicious cycle, right?
Yeah, exactly. People don't talk about it as well. So it's like,
no,
you're kind of freaking out, and then you realize, oh, I actually think lots of people have this, and they just brush it off.
It's so true, and I think it is, you know, we're getting better at it, but I don't feel like it's still quite as normalized. And like there's that real classic response where people will be like, oh, I have anxiety, and people will be like, why? But it's like,
yeah.
If I knew why, I would probably not be feeling it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I feel like there's two sides to it, because you know, I've got a lot of mental health issues in my family, and I've struggled with stuff before, and I've had a lot of practices and things that have helped me deal with these issues. And then I think that there is also a line where you can become too focused on trying to put something into a box, like, oh, I have this thing, and because if it gets so normalized, then everybody's getting diagnosed, left, right, and center, and because they get diagnosed with something that's kind of abstract, like mental health issues you can't put them in the same box that you can diseases that you'd be able to observe, like, oh, this person has this disease, or their bone is broken. It's so much more abstract, and once someone starts thinking to themselves, oh, I struggle with this, then they identify with that, and it becomes this huge thing. So like I've definitely learned to have a relationship with that. We're like, oh, I struggle with this stuff, but most people struggle with these things. You're not a weirdo, you're just a human, and you just got to build practices that help you to deal with those things, because they're not going to go away.
Exactly. I think that's actually, I think you're so right. It's a spectrum in that, like, people think it's like a real binary thing of like you either have it or you don't. Kind of like a lot of the physical health stuff. But it's so, I don't know why I use this analogy, and I don't know if it makes sense, but it's like if you're driving a car and they're cut off, like say there'll be a speed limit. The speed limit might be 60, and anyone who's over the speed limit of 60 is speeding, and everyone who's below it is not speeding. But the difference between someone going 99, if the speed limit's 100, the difference between someone going 99 who, say, doesn't have this, and somebody's going 101 and they do have it,
yes,
they're only that much, like, it's, everybody would probably feel anxiety or something in the right circumstances. It's just some people.
Exactly. Anyway, bro, you put anyone in a cage fight and you will see everybody suddenly have a panic attack.
Yeah.
That is a 100% fact, unless you are a psychopath. And even then, there's certain things that we're meant to feel this way. Like if a tiger is chasing you.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like that's why it's there.
Yeah.
You're like, holy shit, I need to get the fuck away from this tiger.
Yeah, bro. What are some of the things that you found, like with your mental health stuff? Like, what are some things that you find like work for you?
I mean, I'm going to say Ju-Jutsu and this is just going to turn into the Joe Rogan experience very quickly.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that as well. Like, I find it fascinating.
Running from fucking tigers and fucking gorillas. But yeah, martial arts is definitely a massive thing for me. When I found that, my entire life changed. One of my good friends that was at the show last night, she was talking to one of the guys that came from The Rock to see the show, and she was saying to him about my evolution.
Yeah.
And I was listening to her, and it was weird to hear her perspective on this. And she was like, oh, when Josh started fighting, it was like he had this release for all of this other aggressive stuff, and his music started to become so much more channeled and defined. And and that's when I saw this massive, curve in it getting better. And I was like, oh, I've never thought about that, but that's actually really true. Like so much stuff in my life, I always had so much energy. I had all of this pent up, not necessarily aggression, but just so many thoughts in my head, just going. And I dealt with that my whole life in this kind of level of intensity. And then suddenly I was in this environment where everything made sense. Like all of that could just be channeled into fucking fighting someone. Yeah. And they're putting it all at you, and you're channeling all of that at them, and you're just butting heads with somebody. But then you're having to learn about yourself, learn about your ego, and do complex problem solving under pressure.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
Yeah,
and it's so addictive. It's insane.
Yeah, I can only say I can imagine because I haven't done it. Like my one martial arts story is like probably one of the most humiliating things ever, which I'll get to. But when was it that you first? When was it that you'd started?
So I mean, the first stuff I did when I was like a kid, I did Taekwondo. Yeah. And that was pretty much me getting the shit kicked out of me by Korean kids, because I would go in and I would just like try and box, and I was just like, I'd try and punch them in the head. You're not even allowed to do that. You're not allowed to use excessive force. So I just try and fight these kids, and they just be like, kicking me. And so I was not very good at Taekwondo. But I did that. And then, I don't know, it was probably like 5 years ago. I'd always wanted to do it. I always grew up like just fighting with my mates for fun and stuff. And then I started Ju-Jutsu, and I pretty much started competing immediately. And I was training like a psychopath, because it was in between, like when the band was kind of in a hiatus, all the members were changing. And so I wasn't sure what I was doing with myself. And for 2 years, I was just like head down, training twice a day. Yeah. And then I just I competed, and then ended up having my first MMA fight. And then, fought a couple of times. And the team that I was with over in Melbourne, where my little brother's still training now, and I still train when I'm back there, I've got so much respect for those guys. There's pro fighters there who are literally dedicating their whole life to doing this, and it's a crazy thing to be doing with your life. It's unreal. Yeah, I think that everyone should have an experience. Yeah. Not necessarily. It doesn't have to be martial arts, but I feel like everybody can do it. And the best thing is, you see a lot of women come in who haven't had something that's been able to empower them in that way. Because, if a small girl comes in to this gym, it's super intimidating, and it seems like this really like masculine thing. And you can see like they'll be really scared at first, and then they start doing it, and they see these other girls doing this stuff. And then you see this evolution, and in like a year's time, their mental health, their perception of themselves, everything changes. And it happens to people all the time. And then on the flip side, you have like these big raged out guys that come in there thinking that they're the man, like having these big egos. And then suddenly an 18-year-old girl that weighs 60 kgs nearly breaks their arm.
Yeah, bro.
Like, and that literally will happen in jiu-jitsu specifically. And you see stuff like that, and suddenly somebody's humbled, and you realize, oh, no matter how cool I think I am, no matter how many people listen to my music or what stages I play, there's still a little motherfucker that's training in a gym that can kick the living shit out of me. Like, I am nothing. Like, if the world is like crashing and it's me and that guy, he's eating and I'm dead. Like, that's it.
It's so true. One of my mates has been training for a fight at the moment, and it's real cool. Like, he's just basically signed up to do it for fitness, but like, it fucking worked. He's like, bro, there's nothing more motivating than knowing that if you don't train properly, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you in a few months' time.
Yeah, man, it's good.
It's like, I feel like, and like, I don't know, I haven't had that. I've only had like one bit of experience. I'm currently like, I'm quite keen to start doing Muay Thai, but I get the vibe that it kind of makes me feel a little bit like kind of going to like a heavy metal concert, where like the first time you go, you feel real intimidated and like kind of scared and feeling like you've got all these expectations of what people are going to behave like.
Yeah.
And then you go there and people are like way more welcoming and
100%.
stuff than like you ever expected. It's a real like unit, which is like a really cool thing. My one, I don't know why I'm saying this on the podcast, but my one jiu-jitsu experience was we went to this course and like we're doing like training on the basics and stuff, and then everyone started sparring, and the guys were like, just sit on the edge for now and just like watch people do it and like sort of try and figure out the sort of things that they're doing, and if you want to give it a go, give it a go. And I was sitting on the edge and I had my legs out straight, just kind of like this, and these people came at it and they fell on my foot.
Oh no.
And I was like, fuck, that was really fucking sore. But like, obviously I wasn't going to make a scene about it. These people were fighting, I was spectating.
Yeah.
And then like got up to leave and I like could hardly put weight on my foot. And I broke my toe. Some people falling on my foot.
From just watching jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so
It's not that bad, guys.
No, it's just more me and my injury prone, as say, wearing a bloody wrist brace as well.
Yeah, what's happened to you, mate?
Oh, I think so. I was like, I've seemed to have also gotten very good at injuring myself on stage, which is like kind of cool, but also a bit sad because everyone can see you.
Yeah.
But I think I like jumped off like a guitar stack and tried to like, we were doing Master of Puppets and I wanted to jump off and like hit my drums like on the beat, but I kind of overshot it and like smacked my wrist on the corner of my drum. And then it just got like really fucking swollen, and every day it got worse, and I was like, oh fuck. It's pretty all right now, but they've just said to keep it in the brace.
That's gonna like Harlan's gonna break his neck at some point soon. He does backflips and all sorts of crazy stuff on stage. He's gonna end up in a full body cast at some point, I'm sure. But he'll probably still find a way to play the bass.
I love it though, you know, like you want to go to a show and not know what to expect. Yeah, I was gonna rack that dude's brain and see if he could show me how to do a backflip. Actually, that's my next goal. But,
yeah.
My hand-eye coordination is definitely not on my side.
Yeah.
But if you could pick striking or wrestling, one and only one, what would be your go-to?
What, for what I'm good at or what I think is cool, or what?
Like what if you could only practice one, what would you pick?
Grappling or jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I think it's the most dominant. It's the most dominant form of martial arts. You can have somebody start striking who has limited experience and huge amounts of talent.
Yeah.
And they can come in and have incredible power.
Yeah.
And have the ability to kind of do it naturally with speed. It obviously still takes the same amount of time to learn and develop the skills. But if you have somebody that's grappled for 5 years against somebody that's never grappled before, they are going to lose.
Right.
Or even if you get somebody and you train them for 6 months and you put them against someone of the same size who's never trained before, they're going to lose. It's just there's so much stuff about it that I think is applicable in so many scenarios. And you see it in the UFC and in MMA at the highest level. Like even the best strikers, you know, you look at Israel Adesanya and the guys from City Kickboxing who are incredible strikers, but they also have insane defensive wrestling and their knowledge of how to wrestle on the cage and keep the fight standing is why they're so good at striking. That's why it's MMA.
Yeah.
You know, and if you just put a pure striker in, then, you know, I mean, I guess we're going to have the answer to that question soon because Pereira is fighting Izzy again. So that'll be cool to see.
Have you got any sort of fights coming up that you're...
So I fought this year and I had my first loss in MMA this year. It was actually a real cool fight, and it was to a dude called Dillian Lahari over in Australia, and he's a really good grappler. He's really cool. I watched him fight on the same card as my brother the other day, and he smoked this dude. So it was real cool to fight with him, and it went the distance. I think they underestimated me a little bit. Those boys thought they were going to smash me, and we got in there and we brought it to them. But he did really good, and he was definitely better on the night. But yeah, for me, I just want to keep training, and I definitely have plans that once I get more comfortable with the tour life, that I want to find a balance so that I can fight and tour. It's a goal that I have to be able to, for a couple of years, be fighting and then training while I'm on the road. And I'm currently building regiments to kind of keep myself more fit when I'm on the road and drink a little bit less, and, you know.
Yeah, fuck, it's brutal, eh?
Yeah.
It's so much easier said than done to like maintain fitness when you're touring. You just get so detached from reality in a way, eh?
Right.
And like, it's like wake up, have a shower, have breakfast, get in the van. And especially if you're like support acts, basically as soon as you sound check, you might have time to like get changed.
And it's so weird because you don't even, sometimes like on the last run that we were doing, we'd like get to the venue and have to load in at, let's say 3, then we sound check, we do our stuff, and there's not really time to go anywhere. Then you don't end up loading out till like 1 or 2, and you've got to start driving at 4 a.m. again.
Yeah.
So then it's like you don't even really go to your comm. You literally just play the show, load out, get in the van, drive, load in, play the show, get out, and it's like, it's pretty hard. But I think I'm starting to find ways that like, okay, here's how I can stay fit. And
Nice.
I want to be like my little brother. He recently just fought. He just beat this kid up bad. He's like really talented striker. His grappling's coming a long way, and I really want to help support him. And I think for me, it's more so just about the practice. I'm never going to stop doing it. I'm never going to stop promoting people to do it. Like I'm not out here to be some best in the world fighter. I definitely think in another life it's something that I would have really pursued. And it is something that I'll always do. I don't think I'll ever stop. I don't think I'll ever stop doing martial arts. Yeah. So I think that, it's changed my life, and so many people around me, it's changed their life, and I just can't recommend enough, especially Ju-Jutsu. Just go do it. And, you know, if some people are grappling in front of you, just don't stick your foot out or anything. Or
exactly. Don't do, basically, this kind of applies to most things. Don't do what I do, and you'll probably be safe. Yeah. No, I think that's really cool as well. Like, I've kind of been seeing, like, it's funny, like I feel like I've known you for quite some time, but like this is probably only like the 3rd time or something we've like actually met,
and we've never actually had a chat.
Yeah,
properly.
Exactly. Yeah, like I think maybe like the first time we saw each other, we were like kind of in our own world, like literally and figuratively speaking, at Splore or something.
Oh my god! I completely forgot. We were like in a fridge or something.
Yeah, at the portal or something. Yeah.
Oh my god, I was definitely in another world in that
which is like
current time.
as you should be at Splore. Like,
that was one of my top 5 days of all time,
bro.
Actually, of my life, top 5 days.
I fucking love Splore.
Yeah.
It's like there's nothing quite like it. It's such a cool wee vibe. My partner and I've planned our wedding so that it's 2 weeks after Splore, just so we can have our hens and stag do at Splore.
Man, that'll be all. Splore is like, I've got just this beautiful, man. There was a time at Splore where I thought that I was in heaven. Like I was literally like, I'm in heaven. I'm dead and I'm in heaven right now. Because I was sitting in that big, like, you know how they had that big cushion thing, and then up in that tree there was all those flow things, and I was tripping balls. Like I was just like, I was completely not even me anymore. And I have this distinct memory of looking out. I was with Jason, the guitarist from the band, and we were both there. I remember looking out over at the beach, and then I could see the stage in the distance, and I could see all these people. And like, you know how Splore is like, you know, there's like kids and stuff there. Yeah. It's not like rhythm and vines and people getting munted. It's like this wholesome vibe. And I was sitting there and I was just soaking in. I could see people on jet skis like, having a good time, and I just remember just being like overwhelmed with a sense of complete oneness with everything. And that was like, one of the best moments of my life, I think.
It's so good, eh? Like I feel like I will move mountains to attend as many as we can. Like,
Yeah, man.
it's so good. Yeah, and you'd think like having kids would like make it like be a hindrance, but it makes it like so
100%. Because it's like, you're like, oh, this, like, obviously it's cool because I feel like Splore during the day, it feels like more of like a family style festival. And then at the nighttime, you know, people usually don't have their kids there, obviously, because it turns into more of like a party environment. But it's still not as, I don't know. I don't like festivals, really.
Yeah, I kind of feel
not-
it. I don't like New Zealand ones as well, which I shouldn't be saying as a New Zealander, but like I remember going to
Yeah, like Ridden by Wolves does not want to be booked on any New Zealand. You just beep the whole thing out.
Yeah.
None of us want festival bookings at all.
Yeah, I only want like virtual things or like a birthday party.
We will
please.
now be playing on Zoom, playing weddings, bar mitzvahs, whatever you guys are doing, we'll be there.
We will be there. Exactly.
It's definitely like one of those things where, I mean, it's fun and it's cool to be able to win over those new fans, and that's what's cool about it. But it's just different than playing a show where everybody definitely feels like they're there for the music.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that's lost in certain types of festivals as well. Like it's like different depending upon what vibe. Like Splore's the type of festival where you're always like discovering new insane acts. And I'd love to play Splore. That would be awesome.
Yeah. I guess for our international listeners, Splore is like a sort of like a homegrown sort of like Burning Man-ish, but like nowhere near as big or like crazy as Burning Man, but sort of that same vibe maybe.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like taking that essence of the hippie festival, but then it's packaged in more of a mainstream way. I guess it's not as like full on everybody's just tripped out, but it definitely has all that cool art and culture that isn't just the music, and the whole festival itself is visually striking, and it's really cool.
It's unreal.
Yeah,
so you just released a new album like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Future Lovers. I feel like you've probably said all this stuff like ad nauseum recently, but
that's fine.
Tell me why Future Lovers?
Why the name? Well, Future Lovers was initially being crafted as a concept record. So when I was first writing it, I had a pretty clear story. I don't actually think I've talked about it in any of my interviews. So I'll just say what the actual story was, because then it can be exclusive for you, my friend.
Hey.
But Future Lovers, initially, it was the story of a guy who had decided that he was going to kill himself the next day. And it was kind of set in like a dystopian place. And he went to go have a conversation with somebody that he had a complicated relationship with, and essentially explained to her his thoughts on the world and like why he was so frustrated with these things and all these experiences that he'd had. So it was almost like a diary, but it's conversational, because he's having this conversation, and in his head he's decided that he's going to take his life the next day. And so the last song on the album, the last lyric is, "For now we'll just be kings and queens and hope the night won't." And then the song ends, as opposed to saying end. So basically what I was trying to do there was to leave a question mark, because the whole story and why I chose to kind of move away from it actually being presented to the world as a concept record is because I realized that it was actually really personal, and that it was kind of acting as a metaphor for where I felt the musical journey of myself and the band was at, whereas the journey that we're at in the way that if this album didn't do what it's done, I guess, which was just to take us from being like a local band and to alert us to the industry and actually kind of make this more feasible, I wasn't sure if I was going to continue, because I had gotten not continue with music, but I wasn't sure if I was going to continue with this. And so there was a question mark left at the end of that story.
Yeah.
And that question mark directly correlated to me and what was going to happen after this album. And I think that now that the album's out there, it's really cool to see that question answered in a way, and see that where we're now able to do this stuff. And so Future Lovers was kind of summing up that story and summing up this relationship between these two people that are in the story. Like, does it all work out? Does this guy kill himself the next day? You know, does my music career fail? Do I end up making any money? Is mum and dad going to be proud of me? All this sort of stuff. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, a lot of the songs were really personal, and the story was really just coming from me, and I was using that as a vessel. So that's why it hasn't really been packaged that way. And in most interviews, I've just kind of said, yeah, it was going to be a concept record, but then I decided to scrap that. But through the writing process, it was all being written from that lens. Wow. So as I was writing, and then I kind of got close to the end, and I was like, I don't actually think I want this to be packaged that way.
Right.
But yeah, that's a very long-winded answer to a simple question.
Awesome. I can resonate with that sort of vibe of this is it sort of thing, and that it just pushes you that extra bit further, and you make that decision like this is it, but you don't want it to be it, and so you give it like absolutely everything, and like that mindset can sometimes be so
100%, man. And I think we are in this time in the world, even without COVID. I mean, COVID amplified this, but everything is so uncertain for everyone. You have this generation of people who are exposed to more information than any generation's ever been exposed to. It's getting mainlined at their brain at a million miles an hour. They're having to consume all this shit. They're being told all of these extremely polarizing views. They're able to access politics from every corner of the world, which we never even used to be able to do that. It was like, exactly. Oh, something's going on over there. Okay, I'm just going to focus on like my local mayor or whatever's happening. And now we know everything. We're burdened by it. But also, so many problems are solved. So we're just sitting here dealing with all this stuff in our head. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what we're doing. We don't know how to have relationships anymore. All of this stuff has been put on people in this generation, and they're trying to figure it all out. Yeah, and I think that that album tackles a lot of that stuff. And like you said, you can easily feel like, man, I just want to quit this. I just want to stop. And I feel like there's so much more weight put on doing something like this now because of all of this outside pressure. Instead of just being like, oh, I'm just playing the guitar, I'll see where it takes me. You're like, oh, I need to put this on social media. What are people going to think of me? Do I look cool? Oh, I need to get some new clothes. I need to do this. And it's not as simple. And I guess my mindset is I look to work hard and have a good work ethic, and to focus on just putting one foot in front of the other and never stopping doing that. So people say, oh, where are you going to be in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And I could give an answer like, well, I want to be playing this massive arena, which yes, I would love that. But these goals, if you become fixated on them, then you'll just do that, and then you'll be depressed. Or you as soon as that happens, or your whole life is built around this. So for me, it's like, I'm going to keep going, and no matter what obstacle I face, I'm not going to get broken. I'm not going to stop. And that is something that is the life force of this band. It's kind of like this fucking mongrel that you have, that you're like, nah, I'm not, anything can happen. We can be knocked down. People can hate it. All of these things can happen, and we're going to keep on kicking. And that's what we've done. And if it comes to the martial arts or all of these things, like, I can genuinely say that I will never let myself be broken. I've been sad, I've been anxious, I've been depressed, I've had all these things, but I always just say, I look to the people that inspire me, I look to the people in my family that inspire me, the artists, the fighters, and the human struggle, and I draw from that and say, I'm going to just continue to go, and I'm going to continue doing what I love. And like I said at the show last night, and I say at every show, if someone's been in a Banks Arcade show, our only message and the only thing that I want to put out to the world is find what you love. You know, whether it's music, whether it's fighting, whether it's art, whether it's just, oh man, I love kids and I want to be a dad and I want to like look after some kids and raise them right. If that's like what you want to do in your kid, do it and actually fucking do it. Like don't half-ass it. And I feel like if everybody had found that calling and found that purpose and was chasing it properly, so many of these other issues and all the stuff that I just prefaced that with, they wouldn't be the same, and they wouldn't be afflicting everyone as much, because you would see that issue and then you'd be like, okay, I'm facing this, but there's my purpose and there's my goal. And as soon as that purpose is taken away, you're in a very dangerous place. Yeah, it's so right. I think that's a really big thing to like dwell on for a sec, is like that thing that you said about focusing on that thing that you like. My partner, Danny, who went to the show as well, has already mentioned that like today. She was like, you know, it's like what they said last night, like we need to do this, like, you know, so like it resonates. And she was saying as well, like, she didn't know much about the show and she was fucking blown away. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. For anyone listening, like if you see a Banks Arcade come to your town, like make sure you get there.
Actually, and that bit about like you're talking about all this like information overload. There's this real good book if you're ever interested called Stolen Focus. And it's kind of about like everyone's focus levels is going like to shit, and kind of looks in all the factors. It's real interesting.
It's hard. I'm aware of it, man. Like you feel like you can't even get through a movie without like, looking at your phone. You're sitting at home and you just want to watch a movie, and then you're like, oh, what's going on? Nothing.
Yeah.
And you just look at your phone over and over again, and it's like, yeah, it's hard. But I feel like we're just learning about our relationships with these things, and I guess we'll only know as time goes on. But pretty much myself and everyone I know is crack addicts to phones. Like that's it.
Yeah, and it's like it's such a weird time, even in the music industry. Like I remember someone posted, I think it might have actually been you. Someone posted this meme the other day of like, oh, I should have been documenting this for content instead of enjoying the moment. It's like so depressingly accurate, like far out.
It's true. And in our job, you have to, like, well, this is the conversations that we're having now. We're like, we need more content. We have to. And that's what I expect. If you're a musician now, you're not just a musician, you are a fucking content factory.
Yeah. You're a fucking influencer.
No, that's the thing. Everyone's like, we need you to make TikToks. We need you to make TikToks and reels and everything. And you're like, man, I just want to play music.
Exactly.
I don't want to do this. But you have to.
Yeah.
And if you want to grow your business, it's just like, that's the way to do it. And some people learn how to nail it. But I mean, I just think, there's so much shit going on. And then once you're doing stuff with real people, once you're actually just doing real things, you're like, oh, things aren't actually that bad. We're kind of actually in the best time in history ever to be alive. Like we're there's not the same things that were afflicting us for all the hundreds of years before this point. Exactly. It's actually a pretty decent time to be alive, but because we're stuck in this like fake world, it's easy to be like, everything's shit. Yeah. And I think, we've noticed that traveling around, just meeting lots of really good people and being able to have experiences where we're like, man, this is really cool, and we're really excited to be able to do it and have those experiences.
Yeah, speaking of traveling around, I've got to ask, like, how was like the trip to the UK, and how was playing Download Festival?
It was crazy, man. It was actually crazy. I still haven't like fully processed. I don't think any of the guys have. No. I don't think I feel like none of us actually think that trip happened. Yeah. Like we just think that wasn't real. Like it was simultaneously surreal, but I was going to say I've manifested it, but I don't really like that terminology. I've thought about doing that, and I've always thought, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And then when it happens, you're like, man, I always thought this would happen, but there was always all the doubt as well. So it's very, very surreal. But I think playing the festival was amazing. The crowd was crazy. The people were amazing. I think the scale of the event and just all of the little things that like we played Rhythm and Vines here, and that was kind of like, oh wow, we're playing our first festival. And then we started playing some festivals in Oz. We played Unify, and it's kind of like, you go to your stage, you do this thing. And these festivals, like what? Rhythm and Vines has max like 40,000, 30,000 people. Unify had like 10,000. This has 120,000 people there. So like you get there and you've just arrived at a city where all of the workers in the city started yesterday, and like no one knows what's going on or where anything is, and you're trying to like get places and figure stuff out. And we were lucky when we got there. We were camping, and we're camping in this area, and we wake up the first morning and we smell bacon cooking. Because we played twice at Download. We played on the opening night for the VIP campers, and then we played in the actual festival. Yeah. So we play our first set, and then we wake up the next morning, we smell bacon cooking, we get out, and there's this fella there who's been coming to Download since the first ever Download. I think he was he was in his 60s, and he was like there with all of his mates who have been coming to Download for like years and years and years. He was like, come over here, lads. Like, we'll give you some breakfast. And they made us breakfast. They made us dinner. They looked after us every day. And then after our first show, because the first show was like a bit smaller. I think there was only there would have been like 500 people there. Yeah. And we had been told, this is going to be your big one. So, because we were playing the night, it was at night time. I want to say, so that'll be a bit. So we thought, oh man, it's kind of, and I was like, okay, boys, let's get out and hustle. So we were out in the festival for the whole festival. The first one was on Wednesday. Our next one was on Saturday. So from Wednesday to Saturday, we were out every day in the heat, handing out
Oh,
cards.
fuck yeah,
Come to our
nice.
set, come to our set. And then we had like 5,000 people at the... So with our information that we'd been given was wrong about that being the big
Yeah.
one. We were like very different. But yeah, those guys made us breakfast the whole time. Everyone was super welcoming to us. And the team that we were working with over there was absolutely incredible. So it made the experience awesome. And I think, you know, we're really excited. We're probably going to be going back there early next year. There's some stuff in the works for us to get back there. And yeah, while we were there, we were recording with George and meeting a lot of the team. So it was a really amazing experience, and it's something that we've dreamed of, and I think we'll never forget. No matter what we do, we'll never forget that trip, because that was the first moment where we got on a plane and like landed in Dubai, and we're like, holy shit, we're going to do music stuff.
Yeah,
like
man.
it was like, and also we haven't stopped since then. We're just on the road, and for the foreseeable future, that's what we're doing. So, you know,
Fuck yeah.
hopefully people keep liking it.
Nobody can say that you've had your shit handed to you. Like, you fucking earned it. It just goes to show, you know, if you really want something, you know, you put in all that effort. At the end of the day, it's like, if God forbid, you know, it doesn't work, at least you know you gave your all. And I feel like you guys are a great example of a band that's given it your all, and you're reaping the rewards.
Yeah, and I think, bro, one other thing I will say is fuck this tall poppy shit here in New Zealand.
That's
like, honestly, fuck it. It has destroyed so many bands here in this country. We're the worst fucking people in the world for doing it.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, first-hand experience, go over to Australia, we get there, and do you know what we expect? Because we get over there, and our expectation is, oh, everyone's going to hate us, you know, because we're coming from a...
Yeah, just
and
another New Zealand band going to Australia or something.
Or just, it's just the baseline. You're like, yeah, so we're a band coming over, so everyone will just by default hate us, and then hopefully we'll make a friend. And then we're like, hang on, that's just New Zealand. Like, when we got over there, everyone's supportive, and that's why everyone's like, oh, there must be something in the water in Australia and in the States and in the UK, because all these bands are coming out. And in our experience, like, obviously there's still going to be dickheads and stuff, but like, in our experience, we've been supported by all the bands over there that we just came over there, and they're like, oh, you guys are sick. We like music. You like music. You're working hard. Yeah, we'll put you on shows. We'll put you there. We'll lift you up. We'll share all your stuff. We'll support you. And then it's not like, oh, you have to do this back, or doesn't come with expectations. It's just pure people respecting other art. And I think that in New Zealand, we have to get better at this, because there's so many bands that come up and they start to do good. And then everyone in the scene, like, fine, let the fucking YouTube people say all the stupid shit that they say. Like, they're always going to say that. Let them do that. But the people in the scene, we need to be like, yo, there's this new band. Go to their shows, help them out, like, share their stuff. Don't be too cool. No one's too cool. Like, literally, I don't care who you are. If someone in your hometown is actually doing stuff, and I know it happens here, people, they like it. They're like, this is good. They're intimidated by it. And because of how this culture's formed, they're like, oh, I'm not going to say anything about them, and I'm not going to try and help them. And then do you know what it does to them? If you're in a band and you're intimidated by this other guy who's doing something, if they do good and you were always a dickhead to them, do you know what? When they get fucking big, they're going to be like, fuck you, and you're not going to have gone anywhere.
Surprise, exactly.
And we all just need to, like, I think that it's a great place over here. The scene was like pumping, and I think that there's awesome new bands that are coming out, like, you know, the Crooked Boys, you guys, that in Full Bloom are coming out, and like some other bands in the heavy space. And I feel like if the people in this country and the people in the scene are like, you know what, as bands, we're all going to support each other. And you can see that starting to come through, because people are clicking that, like, what's happened in the past is not building heaps of bands that are going overseas and getting massive. So maybe things need to change. And if that changes, I reckon that you'll see New Zealand starting to export bands just like Oz is, even though we're a small country.
Yeah, I hope so. I think you're so right. Like, especially, I don't know if it feels in a way, but it's kind of hard to know if it's just because that's where we are, but it feels specific, like particularly in the rock scene in New Zealand. It's and it's a real shame. Like, I totally agree.
We just start calling people out on here.
Bro,
just list some names down the fucking list. Like,
that would be so therapeutic.
Your podcast just blows up like the first one, because you just go through it and just like, you're like, I would like to have a Royal Rumble cage match with the following.
Imagine, we will have to, one day, that'll be episode 666. We'll get there.
Yeah. The New Zealand music scene and expose, and you just like go through all of the like, oh man. Anyway, we won't go too far into that. I still think it is positive though. I still think it is positive, and it's not like, I'm also just talking about an attitude that seems to exist here. Like, bro, you see it with the martial artists here.
Yeah.
City kickboxing and the artists and the fighters that are coming out of there. Like, we are talking about these world-class athletes. Like, Izzy is literally, he's giant. Like, he's giant in the world. And then, do you know what? I saw he fought. He defends his title against a guy who has nothing for him, so it's a boring fight. And all the fucking New Zealand news publications are like, Izzy is in a boring fight. Is he going to be able to continue this if he doesn't step up his game? And it's like, your boy just won again. This is our country. Why are we the ones that are talking shit on this? And it literally, I like see it and I'm like, One News or something shares it. And I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? Just support. Like, you'd be like we should be writing articles like, fuck all these people that think that the fights are boring. It's just because he's so good, people can't touch him. Like,
exactly.
But it's just part of the culture, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. It's we've got a long way to go. And I think as well, it's like the New Zealand music industry is, well, the music industry in general is like hard as fuck. You don't need any more naysayers, especially as well, like, you know, I feel like your inner critics, you know, that's enough often for people to deal with in a way.
Yeah, man.
One of the other recent releases of your guys was the music video for Used, which was a particular favorite of mine. It was like filmed in my old stomping ground. We lived like on one of the streets just over, and we used to go to that liquor store most weeks.
Shout out to that guy, man.
Bro, that guy is such a legend.
He's a top G. He is the man. I remember us walking in there and we were like, can we shoot a music video here? And he just goes, yes! Like, and you were there. So Dan is off camera. Dan pretty much helped Banks Arcade do everything and is like just run around behind the scenes, helping stuff happen. But we like walked in and we were just like, yo, can we shoot a music video here? He's like, yes, and does the double thumbs up. So then we asked him to do that again in the video. And like when the breakdown hits, he's just like this. I'm gonna go see him tomorrow because I need to show him the video.
Yes.
And I was like, when I'm here, so me and Ethan will probably go down tomorrow and like show it to him and see what he reckons. But that was sick. We were just being silly. That was an off the cuff one. We were just like, should we shoot a music video? It was when we were recording the album. Should we just shoot a music video, go, eat some food on Dominion Road and just act like a bunch of fools? And yeah, it was my favorite one off the record.
Yeah. And I saw that I saw a little cheeky directing credit as well. Is that something? Have you directed all of your videos, or?
Well, I think directed loosely. Like I just come up with all the concepts and kind of be like, we could do this shot or this shot, and then work in with whoever we're working with. But a lot of times I'll write it out and do all the concepting and scripting for what we're going to do. But I definitely think it's one of the things that I want to see some big improvements in. So I've been working very hard for this next record that we do to have a lot more cool visual content, because I think that we can be a pretty striking visual band, and we haven't necessarily hit that exactly how I would like to have hit it in the past. But yeah, Used has definitely stuck out to me as something that I'm pretty proud of, because I always thought that doing a video like that, because we're actually like that. Like me and Harlan and James, when we hang out and like get on the piss and shit, and like, I mean, look, if you can get Jason pissed, if you can do it, he'll be like that as well. Yeah. He'll go sicko mode on everyone. Yeah. He will. Anyone that was at the North Lane show at the King's Arms knows that Jason will get wild if the time is right. But yeah, that video is just like how we are when we do that stuff, and so it was cool to see it, and it just felt like pretty authentic. And like it's hard to explain, but it actually is quite the effort to manufacture something that encapsulates who you are as a group, like to do it sort of in front of a camera and stuff. And we got gorillas having sex on the UNFD YouTube. Yeah, exactly. And like, I remember him asking, like, someone from the label was like, what's up with these gorillas having sex in your video? Did you is this like royalty free or something? Or like, where did you get this footage? Did you take this footage? Were there gorillas harmed in the making of this? And I was just like, I thought for a second that they were going to push back on having the gorillas because they were like, oh, this used video is like, yeah, it's pretty, there's some crazy stuff in there. And I was like, the used video is coming out. And this is like when we were going through the deal, I was like, we're not taking the gorillas out. The gorillas are fucking, and they're fucking in the video, and that's happening. And so, yeah, I think having that out there, I'm pretty stoked that we managed to slip that onto their YouTube channel to be immortalized forever.
And you got your song in a video game, is that right as well? Or was that for the video game? That was a different one.
We made a song for a video game.
So did you make it specifically for...
Yeah, so I saw this thing. It was like, you've got an opportunity to make a song for Ubisoft. And I was in my bed and I looked at it and I said, oh, sick. And I opened up Logic and I made the song. And then I just sent it to them. I like made the song in my bed and then I got up, recorded the vocals, and then I sent it to the boys and they were like, sick. Jason chucked a little mix on it. We sent it to them and then we got the deal and we went in and recorded it. It was like a fucking 5-day turnaround. And then we had the song, we sent it to them, and then they did it for the Oceanic Nationals for Rainbow Six Siege.
Nice.
So yeah, that was all organized by the label and stuff, but it was a different writing process, writing with something like that in mind. Yeah. And bro, the thing about that song is that people like it too much and I don't like it because I felt like I rushed it. And then everyone, like, we stopped playing it for ages. And I'll be like, oh, let's take it out of the set. And then someone will message us being like, I'm coming to the show tonight. The only thing I want to see is you guys play Chosen. It's my favorite song. And I'm like, why can't you like any of the other songs
I know
that I like? And now I write this one song that I hate and all of you love it. Like,
oh, I totally know what you mean in that regard. You played it last night, eh?
Yeah, we did.
I was going to say, it was a particular standout song, actually. It was like,
You're one of them. You're one of them.
Honestly, I do. There was a moment where it was like, fuck, this song's mean.
Oh my God. I mean, look, I have warmed to it now. The more that we've kind of played it live, I'm like, oh yeah, it's pretty fun. It's the point in our set now where like we come out of being all sad and dreamy to like picking things back up, and I do like it, and my relationship with it has been a little bit healed. I just think I don't know. I always like to be very meticulous and like feel like I'm truly expressing myself in a song. And this was the first time where I'd written a song purpose built.
Yeah.
And then suddenly it was like Banks Arcades, new single, Chosen. And I never really saw it that way. I just kind of thought, oh, I'm making a song that's going to be on this video game or on this, for this esports thing. And then, yeah, it was suddenly like a representation of me. And I guess I was a little bit jaded about it. But then I realized, oh, it actually is pretty good. And once enough people said nice things to me, I think it fixed my brain a little bit about it.
Exactly.
Now I like playing it.
Yeah, I like all your songs. Yeah,
Thank you, man.
It is funny though. I feel the same. Like I always get like frustrated like with the top songs on our like Spotify and stuff because like you'll be talking about it to someone.
Is your top song still a cover?
It is still a cover.
Because ours is as well.
Yeah.
So,
It's a cover and it's like
we can't write fucking good music, so our top songs are just covers of other people that can write music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's so true. And like,
bro, actually, I watched you guys do that, and that was what inspired me to do Roses.
Actually,
yeah, I only just realized this now because I was like, oh, I saw you guys get heaps, and I don't know if this is true. I might be off base on this, but I saw you guys get heaps of views and stuff, and started to build up like a really good listenership from doing a cover of something. I can't like
it was
Elastic
probably
Heart.
Elastic Heart.
Yeah. Well, I saw you do that, and I was like, that's really smart because if they've done what I think they've done this. Now this has blown up all their other stuff. Now they can direct all of that to like their own music, and I was like, I want to do that. And that was when I was like, oh, I'm going to do Roses because that was a song that was like popping off on TikTok, the remix of it.
Yeah.
But I was a big fan of, I still am, one of my favorite artists is St. John.
Yeah.
And the guy who originally wrote that song, and no one had done a cover. So I was like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do this. But yeah, that was inspired by you guys doing that and me being like, oh, that really worked well doing the cover thing. And, now I've come to hate the fact that our favorite song was a cover. So I can blame you for it instead of thank you for it.
Hey, well, we could have warned you. No, I know you mean that. And that is a fucking mean cover as well, by the way.
Oh, thanks, man.
And like, yeah, what is like, run me through your normal writing style. Like, do you ever, like, what's the typical process, Banks Arcade process of writing a song?
So, you know how through this podcast, you've probably noticed that I just start ranting, like really obnoxiously and loudly and just talking at a really fast pace. imagine that times 1 million
Yeah.
and happening on like 20 different layers to me by myself in my room.
Yeah.
If there was a camera on me, I would look like the dude from Split when he's turning into a fucking like
Yeah.
walking on the walls and shit. A lot of times when I'm writing, it will be very explosive.
Yeah.
Like 4 hours of me sweating and trying to like write guitar parts, write synth, do all this stuff. And then the songs, the demo is there. And then now, like for Future Lovers, I would write a demo and then almost just leave it.
Yeah.
Wait for the studio, and then the other guys will fix it.
Yeah.
So they'll go in and James will be like, oh, these drums are shit, I'll make better drums. And Jason is heavily involved with all of the sonic stuff with the instrumentations, like the guitars and the bass and drums and like the way that sounds, all of the tones. And in the past, Kenny, who was in the band, would do a lot of the sound design for the synths. But now on album 2, James has started to take over that. And the process for album 2 has been really interesting because me and James are best mates, and we go way back in terms of our musical relationship. And we were in a band ages ago prior to this, so we write very well together. So this last album is the first Banks Arcade project that's been a lot more collaborative.
Cool.
So it's not just been, me writing the demos and then everyone kind of working on them after. Me and James, during lockdown in Australia, actually wrote quite a lot of stuff together, and we were just getting drunk in my room and like getting on a vibe and writing the song. So it was really cool to be able to do that and have a bit more of a collaborative process for that album.
Yeah. It makes it quite a special way. Like, it's harder to get everyone together and like on the same vibe, but like, it's just like, yeah, that's all. So that's for Future Lovers or the one coming?
For the one coming. So Future Lovers, that was like a lockdown record pretty much.
Yeah.
Future Lovers was like, we came back to New Zealand because we were in Australia when COVID hit. And then we came back to New Zealand, and I was at my family home, and I was pretty much like, man, I've got all this time. I'm gonna write a record, and I'm gonna give it absolutely everything. Like, I'm gonna put everything into this record. And then that's how Future Lovers came together. Was just in that time period. No. So a lot of that was written by myself. Some of the songs like Smile, I think we did a little writing camp up at James's house in Wellington. And yeah, some of the songs we did with me kind of around the other guys, but most of them was just me by myself. And it was a combination of, because I used to do a solo hip hop project under Cole Harris, and then the old Banks Arcade stuff and all of the stuff that I'd written over the years. Some of Future Lovers was like drawn from that stuff. Like, it might be like a line that I had in a song, and I'm like, I'm now going to build a whole new song out of that. And that's how the whole thing came together. Yeah.
Nice. And yeah, like you were saying, like the old Banks Arcade, like run me through like sort of pre-Melbourne versus Melbourne and sort of how it's evolved over the years.
I think a hater online or something called us Diet Coke North Lane after our first EP release. And to be honest, they were pretty right. I think that like our first EP, we were very, very heavily inspired by that kind of Australian metalcore sound. And I think that although I still go back and love those songs, I think that it was very formulaic of me being like, oh man, I want to write stuff that sounds like these guys.
Yeah.
And working to do that. And I think that there was still some of that essence that's been carried over. And that's why, the people that did gravitated towards it. But I think once we went to Melbourne and once I'd done all the hip hop stuff, I had been so immersed in just writing that style of music, not writing heavy music. So then once I came back into writing heavy music, but with the context of doing that in a vacuum, I was able to draw from these influences from hip hop, pop sensibilities, and be like, oh, I can. And I think the moment where it all kicked off was really when I wrote Firework. Because I was sitting in my room and I was like, what if I do this thing which is almost like a jazzy kind of reggae feel, and then just start to blend it into a Banks Arcade song. And it was jarring for like everyone in the band. Like, I sent that through, and I remember people kind of being like, oh, so is this what we're doing now? Like, this is... Yeah. Like, and then it was so kind of weird. And then the evolution of that to Future Lovers, where you had... I think the moment for me there was when I wrote Fake Your Death, and that was even a starker transition, because I was sitting there in my room and I was pretty much writing a metalcore song, and then I was like, what if I just switched up right here and just brought in a beat, and now suddenly it's like a St. John Trap song with no respect for transition conventions at all. And I remember being like, that's, no, surely that's just stupid. I'll try it anyway. And then I did it and I listened and I was like, oh, holy fuck, I think I've just found something. And then that was the moment where I was like, I can do this now. I can do this with everything. And then I wrote like 5 songs. And then that was Future Lovers. Kind of just like stemmed from getting that license to be like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. You can just start pulling in from this stuff because it's authentic. You're not just being like, oh, I want to try and do a hip hop thing. You're like, no, I've done that. I've lived with rappers and all these producers who are making this. I've made this music myself. So now that's like a card in my deck that I can play, as opposed to just like bastardizing this other culture that you don't understand anything about.
Yeah. And I think that is something that you guys have done so well. And like watching your show last night, like it's so dynamic. Like, and it means like it makes the heavy shit feel heavy as fuck. But then like there's these really cool moments that like it just, like it works so well. And I feel like this day, like it's we're in an interesting time in a way in that like, you know, like I always think of like, I talk about them too much here already, but like, you know, like there was that moment, say, with like Bring Me the Horizon where it all started, where like maybe I don't know, every album got more and more different.
Yeah.
But that was when you'd have like this divide and people were like, oh, they've changed. But then, and it's like being able to embrace every element.
Yeah.
That's where you like, you know, it's so, you have to have a fucking amazing, like face meltingly heavy song to break through.
Exactly.
If you want to replicate that sound, or you can come up with something that stems from who you are. Yeah.
Ammo's better than Sempiternal. Anyone that disagrees with me probably can't beat me in a fight, so I don't give a fuck.
I agree.
It's a great fucking record and it's insane. And everyone hates them for it, but it doesn't matter because they were just like, oh, we're going to do this. And like Nyla's Blues.
Oh, bro,
what
that song is amazing. Yeah.
It's just, it's an amazing track.
Yeah.
Like getting someone like Grimes to work with Bring Me. But, you know, I still love Sempiternal. I think they are an example of what bands should be trying to do. We live in the internet age. We're exposed to more music than anyone's ever been exposed to. Like we've just got, you know, it's not unnormal for somebody to have Billie Eilish and then like a deathcore band in their top 10 at the end of the year. Like most of the people that listen to heavy music that I know are still listening to a lot of pop and a lot of hip hop and stuff. So I think that now there's all these bands coming through that are mixing this stuff in. There's a crazy band from Japan called Pale Dusk. I don't know if you've heard of them.
No.
A band in Australia called Live Conform Die, who I've recently been listening to, who are doing it really well. Wargasm over in the UK. Oh, yeah. These are all this kind of new wave of, it's almost like hyper pop death metal.
Yeah,
like it's just like crazy sugary stuff that goes into the most heavy shit you've ever heard, and then it's all glitchy and all hitting you all at once, and it's like Charlie XCX and then Thy Art Is Murder, and it's all getting put into a fucking blender, and it's awesome.
And I guess sort of slowly sort of wrapping things up and stuff, what would be like, who would be your like dream collaboration?
Dream collaboration would probably be St. John.
Yeah, actually, have you heard anything from him yet about
Bro,
it's coming?
He put a tweet out being
St. John, come on, man.
He's like, has anyone covered my songs? Put it in the tweet. And like, it was like, no one had covered his songs. And I was like, bro, can you not see this? And I was trying to tell him, I was like, you know, but anyway, maybe he'll see it one day. Oh, I mean, dream would be like, St. John or Kanye. Probably.
Yeah.
Like someone like that I just think would be amazing to do something with. But I think, St. John has definitely inspired the hip hop side of what I do. And I think if we were able to get him on a track one day, that would be pretty loose. Yeah.
Well, if anyone out here has any St. John hookups, get in touch.
Follow out.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. And who would be the sort of dream artist to tour with?
Dream artist to tour with? There's so many. I think, North Lane is one of them. I reckon that we'll tour with North Lane in the next 2 years. Yeah. I'm not leaking anything, but I know, if any of the guys from North Lane are watching this, which they might be, you know, it's going to happen soon. You know it's going to happen. You know it's going to happen.
You heard it here first.
My people are in contact with your people already. But I think that'll be like an awesome moment for us to do that. I mean, we're going on that tour with In Heart's Wake. We used to be huge fans of them growing up. I think probably like all time dream band for me, just because of the sentimental stuff, would be My Chem, because they were the band that like got me into doing music. But yeah, there's so many artists. Like, it would be awesome to tour with some hip hop artists in the future. Maybe like support a big hip hop act. I think that we're the type of band that could do that.
Yeah,
you know,
cool.
and like cross over into that world, much like you guys have done in the past, and like do more mainstream stuff, even though we're a bit of a heavier band. So
yeah, I don't understand. Like, why are there so few like rock and hip hop festivals? Like, I feel like they would work so well.
It's starting to happen, bro. In the States, it's happening more and more. Turnstile's touring with JPEG Mafia.
Oh, yo.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's happening. It definitely is happening. There was another festival over in the UK recently, which literally is what you just said. And you're seeing, you know, Lorna Shore was booked on, what was it? It wasn't Coachella. It was one of those festivals over in America.
Yeah.
And like, I think people are becoming way more accepting of it. But I will say, dream band, in terms of dream band to tour with, bro, we've been able to tour with some bands that I wasn't like a massive fan of them initially because I didn't really know them, but like Wind Waker and Thornhill, who are two bands that we tour with. I'm friends with the guys from Wind Waker, and I'm friends with the vocalist from that band. Like, he's the fucking man. And then we got to hang out with the Thornhill guys, and then I've listened to their records more and more, and like those two records are some of my favorite records ever.
Yeah, man.
Like, so, and like the guys in Sleep Token, we got to do some work with them when we were over in the UK. Absolutely insane. Like, I'm a massive fan of them. So in some ways, we've already ticked off.
Yeah.
Like, I've already got to meet and have my music listened to by some of my biggest heroes in the world. So like, for me, that's something I always wanted to do, and I've been able to do that. So I'm very, very, that's like, I'll be like, man, that guy just responded to my story. It was like, Marcus from North Lane sent me a message. And he's like, oh, hey bro, have just listened to the first few tracks of the album. I love what you guys are doing. This is crazy. And I was like, bro, I literally used to fucking worship you. Like, what's going on? That's crazy to me. But it's amazing to see that stuff starting to happen. And so, you know, you say dream bands to tour with or dream people to have it. Some of that stuff's already happened for me. So it's kind of like only up, I guess.
Yeah, bro. Actually, shout out to Rich. Rich produced the first album, eh?
Oh, bro. Yes, thank you. Rich Bryan is the man.
Yeah,
that
man.
guy is insane.
Yeah.
The best recording session of my life, probably like the peak of me just losing my mind, was on Rich Bryan's birthday while we were recording Future Lovers. We got him fucked up. You were there. We got him fucked up. Everyone was wearing party hats.
Yeah.
We were on some naughty shit, bro. We were on some naughty shit. And we were out our fucking mind. And Rich was sitting at the audio desk like,
I love it.
holding on to it like it was a spaceship, bro. And do you know what he does? He's been in there, and I've been in the booth for hours, because that cunt has done sessions with me. We did Fever Dreams in 48 hours, and we did a 27-hour session. We were up for an entire day and then some. Working, and he does not stop. He just sits there, and he'll just go outside and have a smoke, come back in, and he's good to go. And then on that day, he's like losing my mind. We're like, happy birthday, Rich. We bring him a cake. We bring him all these goodies. And he like doesn't stop. And then he like presses the button. He's like, hey, I've just got to go outside and throw up. And he like walks outside, like spews his ring out, just walks back in. And he's like, good to go. And just starts tracking again. I'm like, you are the loosest guy ever. And yeah, man, he worked with us, and he worked with me when we were a lot smaller and we didn't have heaps of money, and he looked after us and stuff. And I've always got time for that guy. And I definitely, when we do stuff in the future, I was saying to the boys, you know, he's doing his own thing now, and he's fucking killing it with all the content stuff that he's doing.
But Twitch Jesus.
Yeah. But I'd love to, like, especially for vocal production, man, he leveled up my writing, man, because I did stuff with him, and then I used a lot of those techniques for Future Lovers. So thank you for reminding me of that shout out, because that is a very big one.
No, he is such a very patient man as well. We were working with Rich for our first album as well, and yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, I love that guy.
And sort of lastly as well, sort of future goals for like next year, next 5 years, and next 10 years.
Yeah, well, as I said before, I've stopped having the kind of, I think that when you get to a certain point in the music industry, you realize that the goals that you might have aren't necessarily in your control. Because if I'm like, I want to be on this tour, I want to be doing this, it's like, yeah, cool. There's so much bureaucracy, there's so much shit that may or may not make that specific thing happen. Like, my goal in 5 years is that I'd like for thousands and thousands of people to come see Banks Arcade all around the world.
Yeah, bro.
But for me personally and for the band, we've got an ethos that just says, what are we going to be doing in 5 years? Well, we're going to be writing music and we're going to be trying to play kick-ass shows. And that's what we're going to be doing. And whatever happens, happens. At the end of the day, if we can keep doing what we're doing and sustaining ourselves off of playing music and spending time with people that we love, then that's all that I can hope for, really. Hopefully I'm just doing the same shit.
Yeah, bro, 100%. Man, I've had like such a good time. Like, we started doing these podcasts with the aim of like doing like 15 minutes to half an hour.
Oh shit! I should have warned you, brother. He could have told you.
Oh no! Like I would rather just keep going for like ages.
Yeah.
Like, so don't even apologize, bro. Like, it's been so easy and nice. Any sort of before we sort of wrap things up, any sort of like last words or like anything you want to say to the listeners or anything as a parting gift?
I think there's a lot more to come from the Banks Arcade camp. I think that Future Lovers is the tip of the iceberg. I was just showing Dan before some of the new stuff that we've been working on, and I think that we have, Future Lovers is 2 years old for us. It just came out, but it's 2 years old for us.
Yeah.
And the pedal has been at full throttle ever since then. It has not stopped. And I think that the stuff that comes next builds upon it in a way that is even more consumable and that people will really be able to resonate with. So, hopefully we can keep connecting with fans around the world and we can keep doing what we're doing. And like I said, just find what you fucking love and do it. That's it. That's all we've got to say at the end of the day.
100%. Joshua, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, brother.
Such an awesome time, and sorry for keeping you for so long.
No, it's all good.
It's been unreal. All right, thanks, mate.
Cheers, brother.